So for this module's case study, I'd love to talk to you about DBL Fund. DBL stands for double bottom line. It is now a pretty popular terminology, but when DBL Fund was started, it wasn't a mainstream terminology. Impact investing was not a mainstream terminology. So they helped create a field. And that's why I'm sharing this case example, because they are social entrepreneurs and funders. So the founder of DBL Fund is Nancy Pfund. I'm not making that up. Her last name is Pfund. It's spelled P-F-U-N-D. And she graduated from the Yale School of Management, so I got to meet her, and I think she's really cool. And her vision was that her theory of change was that one of the reasons why the status quo gets perpetuated, especially when it comes to environmental conservation and climate change, is the vested interest of funders and the lack of funders who are willing to take risks on innovative solutions. And so Nancy's investment strategy and her team's investment strategy is three-pronged. First, follow the carbon and other unsustainable practices, which is the same thing that we do in this class, right? Like identify the problem, follow the problem, go to where it's at. Second, fix something that's broken. What is it about these unsustainable practices that could be changed or replaced? And third, when iconic names are a century old, it's time to invest. And what they mean by that is like in the field of energy, you look at Shell, BP, others, they're over a century old. In cars, you look at Ford, GM, BMW, they're a century old. Even in nonprofits, when you look at the Sierra Club, the Salvation Army, Goodwill, they're a century old. And so their point is that there's room for innovation and that they want to support people who are trying new ways of doing things. Because as awesome as the Sierra Club is, I'm not trying to diss any of these nonprofits, there's a lot more work to be done. So where can we find innovation? So that's their investment strategy, and then they have different sectors that they focus on. So they started off focusing on clean energy. They call it the electrification of everything, not just electric cars, just everything. How can we get rid of fossil fuels? Then agriculture and food. How can we support people and farmers who are trying to create sustainable agricultural practices rather than destroying the soil and ecosystems? Natural climate solutions, conservation and resource optimization, and the space-earth nexus, and the future of work, and rebooting, what they call rebooting the real world. And then transportation and mobility. So these are the sectors where they focus on that they feel have the most potential to create iconic companies and where their approach and value proposition as the DBL Fund are differentiated. So let me give you two examples of companies they invested in. And this is a venture capital fund. These are all for-profit investments. One works on forest conservation. Forest conservation, you might ask, how is that a for-profit company? Through innovation. So the idea here and the value proposition is that instead of buying a headstone, buy a tree. This tree can serve as a memorial for your loved one or for yourself so that your loved ones can visit you there. You can spread your ashes there, and that tree will forever, or for as long as that tree naturally lives, remain in your memory. And so this helps them protect and restore forest land and wild habitats that otherwise might be exploited or removed for other purposes. So that's Better Place Forests. And then another example is called Pallet. And they're trying to tackle homelessness, among other things. So Pallet produces rapid response shelter products, like basically prefabricated homes that can be used for unhoused people, for disaster response housing, or even for temporary workforce housing. So the fact that they have multiple purposes might allow them to do some cross-subsidization for their mission. Now, you might say this is a Band-Aid, giving an unhoused person a home. It's actually not. Data shows that providing someone with a home helps them take the steps needed to get a home themselves. They actually need a home to find a job, to access resources that support unhoused people, to keep a job, to save money, to be able to eventually get their home. This has been tested in many states. And then Pallet works with nonprofits and NGOs and community organizations to provide homes for unhoused people. So the NGO is the customer that's paying Pallet, not the unhoused person. But the company won't put the houses somewhere unless that nonprofit or NGO or the government agrees to provide services needed along the housing, like nutrition, healthcare, counseling, help getting a job, and finding a place to live. So that's their theory of change. And they include unhoused individuals and formerly incarcerated individuals in their employee base. So this is an example of these are two examples of companies that DBL invested in because they felt that they're reimagining the way you can tackle forest conservation and homelessness. And DBL also practices, or the founder and the team practice policy work. So thinking back to that direct service, scaled direct service, systems change, which most of their investees are doing, and framework change, they're working on advocating for policies for systems change and framework change. For example, antitrust policies to increase competition among companies in the US, where monopolistic companies threaten innovation. And they also, I think it is systems change and framework change that they basically helped found the field of impact investing. They were among the first impact investors, even though they didn't even know that was what it's called when they started it. And more recently, they joined a network of like-minded investors called Impact Capital Managers to strengthen their shared mission of growing the impact marketplace. So they're building a field, not just investing in companies. And so I think DBL Fund is a great example of the evolution of social financing, of social financing as a path to changing the world. It might be your path, like Nancy Pfund is a social entrepreneur, and to contributing to systems change and framework change by founding impact investing, by supporting entrepreneurs that are trying to change the status quo, and by advocating for policies to increase innovation.